Welcome. This is Stories from Los Angeles, hosted by Eric Ramos.
Welcome everybody, I'm Eric Ramos, and today I have the honor of having Nayomie Mendoza with me today. She and I actually just connected very recently this year, a couple months back through Instagram, and this is actually our first time meeting in person. The reason why I wanted to bring her in here is obviously because she's a local here to Los Angeles. She is the owner or co-owner of a business restaurants here in Los Angeles, and obviously I wanted her to get all her facts straight. I'm gonna let her do most of the talking, the introduction. Tell me more about yourself. Welcome to my place.
Well, thank you for having me. We first connected because my nephew is huge fan of your book. I think I told you this many times, but yeah, and my sister's all like, just DM him, and I was all like, what are the odds, you know? But yeah, thank you for having me on. And I mean, where do we start?
Well, first things first, I guess you can say the thing that really brought us together was the love for Mexican food, right? Because I wrote a book about a torta that comes to life, and your restaurant just happens to have all kinds of cuisine, Mexican traditional food dishes, and of course tortas, correct?
Yeah, we have a huge lineup of tortas. So if you guys ever want to come on down to Cuernavaca's Gril. But yeah, so my dad actually founded the restaurant about 18 years ago. We turned 18 this past May, and we opened our second location this past May as well. So it was this whole like surreal moment because it was on our 18th anniversary. I was like, oh my gosh, like she's finally legal, just like joking about it. And then I was actually supposed to open that second location around this time. Yeah. But you know, we've received so much love and support from the community that everything just aligned, everything fell into place. And you know, I'll talk a little bit more about how difficult, you know, the restaurant industry is. Mm-hmm. But right now, like, I'll start with, you know, how my dad got started.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so he migrated to the U.S. from Mexico about 30 years ago. And, you know, he just came with, like, an American dream. And, you know, like many of us, my grandpa, he had a bunch of businesses in Mexico, and every brother was taking over, you know, the businesses. But my dad genuinely loved the kitchen, and this is something like I like to talk about a lot because, you know, usually you hear the stereotype, oh, you know, you're going to the States to just, you know, work in a kitchen, and I feel like they kind of like frown upon that, when in reality, you know, it's an art. It's what expresses our cultura, and my dad never really saw it as that. So he came, you know, to the States, and he started from the bottom, literally. Like, he started at a Jack in the Box. He didn't have enough to pay for his uniform at this point. Oh wow. And he was a dishwasher, and he often talks about a story where he just had enough for like a spray paint, and he had white shoes, and he like spray painted his shoes, and then black, yeah. And then when it came to mopping, he just like damaged like all of the floor, and his manager came in
because of the shoe. The washed off. Oh my God.
And funny thing now, they built this like high-end gym called Iconics on Ocean Boulevard. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I saw him like working out every day. I was like, I want to provide something a little nicer for him, because he was starting to get known like on social media and stuff, and you know, people would come up to him, and I worry about like his safety, and I was like, I'm gonna just bring him to this high-end gym. It's a little more secluded. And when we're driving past there, he's like, this is the Jack in the Box that I started at. And then that same day we got news that we were gonna open the second location. So it was like this
a full circle
moment, and I was all like, oh my goodness, like I can't even. And then he told me the whole story. He's like, yeah, and then, you know, 2 months later, like, your mom told everyone that she was pregnant, and that was just, you know, he was 18 at the time. So,
Oh, wow.
I mean, 19.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he turned 20. That's when they had me. And I obviously wasn't planned. So, you know, we were in poverty for, I want to say, like the first 4 years of my life, to the point where they didn't have enough for diapers, or like, I joke with my mom and I'm like, I mean, it's trendy now, but there was a time. There was a time.
Struggle is trending
Yeah.
nowadays.
I was like, there was a time where, we didn't have enough for diapers, so she took one of like his shirts, ripped it, and just learned how to sew and just made a cloth diaper. I was like, I mean, it's trendy now, so like, I was like, been with the trend since, you know, the 90s, but, you know, go off. So
Of reusable diapers,
Yeah.
right? More eco-friendly.
Yeah.
You've been eco-friendly.
Yeah. And then we lived in like a rodent infested apartment, and I would get, you know, trapped in the rat trap. So I learned how to walk at like 8 months, like by myself. Like my mom just saw me walk and she's all like, you know, that's when like we knew that you'd be adaptable to any environment, you know. So then, you know, we fast forward and you know, to 18 years ago, when my dad decided, hey, like I want to actually open a restaurant, have something for myself. He started working at, you know, very high-end restaurants where he'd be the only person there without a title. Like you see all of these white chefs, and they could make the most basic Mexican food, and they're, you know, James Beard Award nominated, they're on the Food Network. They get so much, you know, media for that. And then you see a Latino who is genuinely like passionate about it, and they get pushed aside. So I remember growing up and seeing that, and every Saturday morning, like we'd be watching the Food Network, and I'd just see like these white chefs, and I'd be like, Dad, like how come there's no, you know, Latinos there? Like there's no people like us. And he's like, I don't know, but you know, one day like I will be on there. And just like kept on saying that. So you know, we fast forward to Cuernavaca's Gril. We first started in Long Beach, in North Long Beach, and in about 2 years or so, we were able to expand. And so we knocked down the wall and we expanded. And I remember just my parents struggling, like, again, and I was just like, dang, like they've really invested so much, like what can I do? So for whatever reason, I had gotten in trouble at school and I was in the principal's office, and we didn't cater at this time, and I was like, oh my god, I have to like really shift the focus from me getting in trouble. Like I have to do something really good. And for whatever reason, I heard them talking about how the catering person canceled and that they really love their tacos, and I don't know why I had a flyer in my bag, and I was like, hey, you know, we cater. I kid you not, we didn't have like a grill, we didn't have any of that to cater, but we ended up, you know, getting hired, and we ended
right then in the spot?
Yeah, he's like,
wow.
oh yeah. So he calls my dad, hey, your daughter's in trouble. By the way, I heard you cater.
Just like,
and my dad's all like, oh my goodness, she always gets away with everything. I still got in trouble, you know, going home, but I mean, that just opened the doors for so, you know, many things. We started massive catering, and that really trained us and propelled us to, you know, our LA location now. Because I mean, Long Beach was crazy, but LA is a whole other level, like especially with the area that we're in, because we're in the LA fashion district, like a block away from the callejones.
Right. So how did, when you said, is their Long Beach location still open?
No. So
no?
we,
okay.
Yeah, the pandemic came, and 5 years ago, I mean, I was 20 years old, 2 weeks from turning 21, and I was a senior in college, and I was just like, okay, what do? I hate the corporate life because I feel like it was very limiting for me, and I worked in a business management team where I would help businesses. businesses grow. At 19, I had 19 accounts, and I would just give like marketing advice, and I would do everything from like accounting to marketing to just going on and taking meetings, and they would travel me out. And I was like, why am I helping all of these other businesses grow when in reality, like, my dad's like at home and I could do so much for him if I just quit. So I was just like praying. I was like, okay, God, like if this is a route that I'm supposed to take, like, let's do it. So then I was 20 years old, just contemplating, you know, any 20-year-old would be stressing about their 21st birthday, what they're gonna do. A month prior to that, they presented me with the opportunity, and I was like, you know what, like, it's a really, really good location. They only asked me for $7,000. Everything else was already included. Like, we're talking the grill, we're talking the hood, we're talking everything. And you never really find a restaurant like that. I mean, a hood is like $40,000.
Right.
But they were just trying to get rid of it. They were trying to get someone in there. And I was just like, okay, Dad, like, I promise you, like, just trust me, right? A year in, COVID happens.
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, my restaurant is shut for 5 to 6 months.
Yeah.
And then the arts district is like a ghost town. And I was like, how do I recover? I can't apply to like any grants because like I'm barely a year in.
This is your restaurant, your own, like separate from your family's, or was it still Cuernavaca's Grill?
It was still Cuernavaca's Grill, but you know, my dad will always own the name.
Yeah.
And we were planning on shutting down Long Beach because LA was doing so well prior to that. But then, you know, I'm just like, by the grace of God, Long Beach didn't shut down because that's what sustained us during the pandemic. However, I didn't have my corporate job anymore, and I was like, what do I do? So I turned to social media and I just started filming everything. And then one day, you know, wake up and the Chile Relleno has like over 20 million views.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, oh my goodness.
So your dish went viral.
Yeah, it went viral, and I was like, you know what, like, I've seen social media change the lives of so many people. Like, what can it do for a small business?
Yeah.
So then we just became popular, like, amongst the foodie community. And then one day, like, I just wake up and the Food Network DMs one of the foodies like, hey, can we have credit to this video? She connects them to us. And I thought it was a scam. I was just like, oh, like, you know, and I was like, even if the verified sign is there, like, what are the odds? Like, everyone's dream is to be on the Food Network.
Right.
Right? So I was like, you know what, like, I'm not even gonna tell my dad because, like, if it doesn't happen, like, it's gonna break his heart. So I just remember being out with a friend. We were at the pier and she's like, so, like, what's next? Because I had already told everyone, like, I'm gonna file as a denture. Like, this isn't working out for me, clearly.
What's a denture for those who don't know what a denture is?
Yeah, so you're, like, reporting it as a loss.
Okay.
And you're reporting your business as a loss. So I was gonna close the doors. I was like, you know what, like, it's gonna benefit whoever's next in line, but I'm done. My boss, like, when I left, she's like, come back anytime. We loved having you, because I feel like I was really, really good at everything I did. I mean, I did intern for her since I was 16.
And so this corporate job was kind of, like you said, management?
Yeah, it was management.
Okay.
And then it evolved into, like, marketing because they started getting huge clients. And I found myself more involved in the creative field. And I was like, you know what, like, love accounting, but I think my chapter with accounting is done. Like, I've always been creative. So, you know, I started, you know, growing with these companies. It varied from, like, restaurants to nuclear medicine to, you know, construction sites, and it was insane. And I was like, I need to do this for my family. Like, that's what I feel called to do.
Yeah.
So I was telling my friend, I was like, you know what, like, I'm just gonna file as a denture and I'm done. Like, and I was like, and we're not gonna talk about this. And I was like, but actually, like, the Food Network reached out, and she's like, girl, just give it one more week. One more week. If you don't feel comfortable, if you feel like nothing's come, like, just leave. I'm with you. I will help you. I kid you not, the next morning, the Food Network posted us everywhere. Like
Really?
from Facebook, Twitter, like they spotlighted us. And I didn't know because I was sleeping, because I had a rough night just talking to her about this decision. And then my sister's like, hey, by the way, like the Food Network posted us. I kid you not, I just started to sob, and I was all like, oh my gosh, like our lives are gonna change because of this. And they did. So I hadn't told my dad. He sees it and he just starts sobbing, and he's all like, you know what, like, I don't know if I told you this, but we would always pick up like every cent to buy, you know, back then they had the Food Network magazines.
Yeah.
And he's like, to buy the Food Network magazines, and I just really try to perfect my work. So to
it
be
could be
here,
good enough for the magazine?
Yeah, for the magazine,
Right.
or like any acknowledgement in general.
Yeah.
So then he was like, so I don't know how to like process this. Like, it's so surreal. He's like, it's taken at the time 16 years. He's like, 16 years, but you know, we're here now. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I went to bed and I was just like, God, like, what happens next? Like, how do you manage this? And then like a month later, they came, and it was Hispanic Heritage Month, and they shot a segment, and we were able to like share like our entire story, which was so surreal because, like, yes, they have a lot of Mexican chefs, but for it to be authentic like that, and to cover our story, and to just get down to the nitty-gritty of it.
And it wasn't like a giant corporation,
No.
like if professional chefs, it's more home style, mom and pop, like food, traditional style food. That's just awesome.
Yeah, and then after that, Univision came in, and Telemundo, and all of the whole media storm happened, and I was like, yeah, like that's great, but how do I build? Because you see so many people have their viral moment, and I'm like, how do I build a brand? Like, even when the 15 seconds of fame goes away, how do I make this stable enough to build this brand that's gonna have longevity? And my dad, thank God, he trusted me, because then full circle moment, Long Beach, like, I mean, at this time, like, it was maintaining itself and so many people were coming, but inflation is crazy. And I was like, how do we get it to sustain itself? And I told my dad, hey, you know, we shouldn't be in separate locations. Like, we could grow later, but if you and I, like, we're in one location together, I feel like we could move forward. Like, we could just create something explosive. So he started trusting me, and we said goodbye to our first brick and mortar, which was really hard because
in Long Beach, right?
In Long Beach.
Okay.
Because I mean, school was walking distance, like everything was walking distance from there, even our home.
Yeah.
And it was a really hard goodbye, but my dad's like, you know what, like, it's on my heart to give it to your aunt. So my aunt has that location now under a different name. And he's like, but you know, like, I trust that this is gonna come back to us in the future.
Yeah.
So then he trusted me with everything. We started filming like crazy. Like, when I tell you like crazy, we'd film like 5 videos a day, and it went from, you know, just me and my dad working to me, my dad, and then a cook, me, my dad, and then 2 more people, and now we have 27 employees. And I would have never thought that, because, you know, a few weeks prior to the Food Network posting us, I was like sobbing, and this random man came in, and he's all like, hey, like, I know you don't know me, I don't know your story, but it's really on my heart to tell you this. He's all like, you know, the fact that you're here after a world pandemic, and, you know, being Latina, like, you should be proud of yourself. And he's all like, I had to file as a denture. He's like, this is pre-COVID. Like, I didn't make it at all. Yeah. So the fact that, you know, you made it, you're beating all the odds. So I had like all of this affirmation like everywhere. But when you look at the reality of it sometimes, you know, it's hard to process. So what I learned throughout this whole process is, you know, just keep your eyes on the vision. Like sometimes reality, it might feel very long to get to that point, but I look at my dad and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like he did a lot of the generational healing for us. Yeah.
I feel like in my own family it was the same thing.
Yeah.
Where I feel like somewhere along the lines we're very traditional, but at the same time I feel like there's somewhere along the lines some families want to behave or just continue the same cycle of the previous family, whereas I feel like my family, when they came here, I feel like my dad changed. Like, I'm gonna treat my family different. I'm gonna raise my boy different. We're five kids.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm the only guy and have 4 sisters. Are you an only sibling?
No, I have
How many siblings do you have?
Just one.
Just one, so it's 2?
2 girls, yeah.
2 girls. Awesome. And so to me, it's like I realized like that there's a lot of like change. Even I feel like my dad really adapted to the U.S. very quickly and was like, mijo, like obviously for those who don't know what mijo is, it's just like, son, this is your home. Like take it all in. To me, it's like I think I never felt out of place, because when I got here I felt like my dad was like, you know, 4th of July, fireworks, like everything, like flags, like he was always very proud to be here. I think that's one thing that sometimes I don't see that same like enthusiasm of people like being here. Like they kind of expect like the U.S. is like, hey, change for me, which I think is like it's very. If you're here at this time, it's like or previous times, I feel like the opportunities as there are so many like problems around the world, even here in our country, I feel like it's such a good place to be regardless, right?
Yeah.
So with you, it's like it's one of those things where I kind of was like, how do you feel like that, like having your business here in the U.S. like has helped you guys? Yeah.
So funny you mentioned that. My dad, he always tells us, like, in order to be successful, you have to be adaptable to any situation. So he would always tell us, like, you know, adaptable, it doesn't matter what country you're in, you just have to adapt to that. So, you know, him coming here, he learned the language, and I think I shared this with you a little bit, but he put us in a predominantly white people school where we were like the only Latinas there.
Was this like elementary?
Elementary,
okay.
Yeah, elementary, and then I went to Biola as well. So we've always been, we're not shy, like we don't shy away from, you know, just our cultura. It's not uncommon for us to be the only Latinas in a room, like ever since we were young, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of he just came and he broke a lot of generational cycles. Like, you know, my grandpa, yes, like he was a businessman, but he was very machista. And he's like, I don't want that. And he's all like, because he's like, he's like, si yo le sigo ese rollo, my daughters are gonna be raised to think that they need a man to be successful, when in reality they might be able to do it better, you know. And when he put us in, you know, predominantly white people school, a lot of our family was all like, why? They're gonna feel inferior. And he was like, no, like they have to get adapted to these rooms.
Did you ever feel inferior?
Up until, so in elementary, no.
Right.
Not at all.
Kids,
it's
right?
all kids. But in college, yeah, I think I mentioned there was the situation where, you know, at this point I was a freshman, and I mean I had a good job, and everyone was just like so proud of me. Like the professors would always share their knowledge, and they would always use me as an example. I'd always be like the teacher's pet that, like, oh, you know, give an example. I'd gladly give an example of a company that, you know, I was working with. And
you shared already, right? You graduated from Biola University.
Yes.
which is awesome. Kudos to you. I think a lot of people don't get enough praise for that, but congrats. I mean,
thank you.
Yeah,
and there was, this white girl who was there like, I'm just here to get my education. I'm gonna open, food truck, this and that, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, like just clapping, like we're so proud of you. And then I was like, yeah, well, I want to take after, my dad's business as well. The room went silent.
For you.
For me. I was all like, what is the difference? I just didn't feel supported. And, we circle back to, we have these white chefs who do, there's really good ones too, but who do the most minimal dishes, and they have all of these awards. And we have our Latinos, who are the backbone of the restaurant industry, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of those main chefs have workers in the back kind of preparing those dishes for them, and they just put the final sprinkle on top.
Exactly.
Like, boom, let's go.
Yes. And I was like, and our people, like, we do it all. Like, we have so many people in the kitchen. I kid you not. They know how to do everything in the kitchen, everything. Like, we might have like our line cooks and all of that, but best believe they could cook like a chef. And, there's people, especially like the white people, they're so limited. Like, hey, I'm, studying to be a line chef. Like, that's what I'm gonna be. And my dad always wanted to expose us to that, because he wanted us to think outside of the box. And he was all like, if I put you guys in a Latino school, like, you're gonna be used to so many people that are like you, that when you go into a room full of white people, you're gonna feel inferior.
It's funny you say that, because I went to a predominantly Hispanic like school. It wasn't around LA, Norwalk, and I always kind of felt a little like not air quotes Mexican enough, where I feel like your own people sometimes push you to be like, you have to be like us. And I'm like, well, I am. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like I grew up with a lot of media that I was just like watching Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
And I was just like, kind of had that same humor, kind of that same like, oh yeah, guys, let's have fun together. Meanwhile, over here, they're comparing like against other neighborhoods or like trying to get in fights or trying to go like party. Whereas to me, I didn't really see that on what I was consuming.
Yeah.
So I sometimes did feel a little like call it unwanted, even though I did hang out with a lot of like most people. I wasn't like a shy guy, I guess, because of sports was what made me. I did have a huge culture shock when I moved to the Inland Empire, though. When I moved to the Inland Empire, that's when I realized, like, wait, the cool kids here are doing sports and have like amazing grades, which to me as a freshman going into that, I was just like blown away. I was like, I guess I'll try to get good grades, even though it was difficult for me. Were you really good at school?
Yeah, I was really good at
school.
school.
So you were a little smarty pants.
Yeah, I was the teacher's pet. So.
Awesome.
No, but funny thing is that our middle school years, he moved us to predominantly Hispanic school because he wanted us to like see both worlds. And I remember that first year, like me and my sister hated him. We're all like, everyone's always in drama, like, over there, like, yes, like there was drama, but the parents were so involved that they were very, quick to shut it out, even in middle school, because it was a K-8 school. Okay. So I was all like, Dad, like, what did you do to us? And he's all like, okay, you see how they pit each other, like they pit against each other? We see that a lot in our community. Don't be that person. Yeah. And I didn't really get that message till later in life when I was like, oh, okay. And, now being around, being in the doors that, I've walked through, I'm just like, it's very catty in our community. Like, why is it so scarcity mindseted?
Yes, I 100% agree with that. It's like the famine mentality, where it's just like, they're eating, but it's like, I deserve to eat more than them. Exactly. Or like, I want to take away what they're eating. Like, it's very cutthroat sometimes within our own people. And this is one of the main reasons why I told you that I'm shooting this podcast, because when I saw your Instagram feed, I was like, oh, wow, look at you. You're doing your thing. Like, and to me, I've always been the type who's happy for people. I've never
Yeah,
been the type to compare myself and be like, I need to outshine this person that I just met. And that happens a lot in our community, especially like you just come across and you get like a side eye. I think that's why in our culture they have like the little blue eye, right, to scare away those bad vibes. But I had a few questions for you because obviously, I mean, if you want to keep going with your story, I'm all ears. But I think I wanted to get these questions out to you because to me, it's one of those things where you kind of shared your stories, like of everything that's of Cuernavaca Grill. And Cuernavaca, for those who don't know, is a city, right, in Mexico, like south of Mexico City. Is that where your family's from?
So my dad's side, that's where they came from, but then they moved to El DF.
Right.
So I don't know like how familiar you are, but in DF it's like a whole different...
Oh, I'm a Chilango, trust
really?
me. This is why I live in LA.
Yeah.
I feel so at home here because Mexico City, as you know, it's a huge concrete jungle, 10 times more insane than Los Angeles.
Yeah. So so my dad was his dad's favorite. They moved to DF and he gets along with all the tias that live there. So like once you're in the DF, like your mentality, it changes. Like I genuinely, comparing it to like anything else, I think it changes. He's all like, yeah, you know, by how you carry yourself, like mannerisms and all of that. And he's all like, how do I bring that to the US, but like try to like capture it in a cuisine? So yeah, like
'cause there's so much fine dining in Mexico City.
Yeah.
Like I've had friends that I obviously like white from England who came to me. It's like, hey, your family's from Mexico City. I know you've been there a couple times. What restaurant should I hit up? And I was like, I mean, I do a lot of street food myself and like mom and pop shops. I don't really go into the fine dining because to me it's like, it's good. Obviously, I'm not going to knock down those restaurants, but to me, there's something about like just home style like street food that it just hits very different for me. And so I gave him a list. I looked up on Google. I'm like, here, try these out. These are the best rated ones. Like if I knew anything, but I was like, but I only looked at the dishes. I'm like, okay, this looks pretty good. They're known for their mole. I was like, you like mole? He's like, a little bit, yeah. It's like curry, right? I was like, yeah, it's kind of like curry. And so
it's so funny. I had a funny video go viral with one of my white friends, and like I just gave her traditional Mexican food. I was like, try to guess the names, try to guess what these are. Everyone was so invested.
I like how it's such a universal language.
Yes.
Because to me, it's not even about like, sure, this is the food that I grew up with, that your family has perfected over the years. The fact that other people, I love trying other people's food as much as like Mexican food. Sometimes it's one of those things that I love dabbling in all kinds of food, especially if somebody from a different culture hits me up and says, you got to try my mom's food. That to me is like, you trust me a lot. You love me. Like at a point, like I feel like so close to you for sharing that intimate side of, and that's kind of what you're sharing with your family. With your family's kind of sharing their recipes.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go back to what you said earlier about the chile relleno that went viral, right?
Yeah.
A chile relleno, for those that don't know what that is basically a bell pepper with cheese inside, right? Is your, and I don't know what the sauce is.
Yeah, it's a chile poblano with cheese inside, and then it's battered. And we have like our house-made special batter, and then our special salsa.
And who came up with that recipe?
My dad.
Your dad came up with the recipe?
Yeah. So it was funny because that was the first dish that I learned how to cook.
Nice.
And till this day, like he can see this podcast, I think I make the best, like the prettiest chiles rellenos. And he's like, let's make it a little more challenging for her. So he perfected the batter, and he's always challenging us to try to see what he did different in the recipes, because he's like, you know, when this grows, and if there's something off, he's like, I want you to know how many ounces and what ingredients they're off by.
Yeah.
So we ended up perfecting it, and yeah.
That's so adorable.
It's so like full circle, because that was the first dish that I learned how to cook. That's the one that got us to where we're at today.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was kind of another one of my questions. Like, what is one of the most fondest memories that you have, revolving around the restaurant? And you just touched up on that. The fact that, do you feel like a very strong like connection with your? I'm assuming your dad learned that from his ancestors, his family members. Like, who inspired your dad? Do you know that much? Like,
yeah, it was my grandma, and then I don't know if you saw, but she came down to the States barely, and they connected. First time in 27 years. So when she was able to see what my dad built and how many chiles rellenos leave the facility a day, she was so shook, because she was the one that taught him that recipe.
That's awesome.
So it's, now my nephew's into cooking, and to just see all of these generations really admire our recipes and our culture, where we came from. It's beautiful, and I sob every morning. I'm like, I can't believe this is life.
Right?
Yeah.
You're literally feeding love to people,
Yeah.
essentially, because that's kind of what I really like hearing about. It's like, okay, you definitely have. This isn't something that I feel like sometimes when people start a business, it's like, okay, they're doing that, so I'm going to do that. Where you didn't have that. It came out of such an intimate moment of like a family connection over a dish.
Yeah.
And I think that's really when I want to push people to really find what they love, because once you find what you love, it's the issues, the troubles from life, the business side will always be there, but it'll make it's almost like you have that inspiration, right? Like, and that's one of my questions for you. Like, what inspires you to go to work? What inspires you to wake up every day and go to work?
Yeah. It's the community for sure. So when my dad, founded this 18 years ago, so his vision was always, because he didn't have papers at the time, and he couldn't go back to see his mom or to the native land. So he's like, how do I capture that in one dish? Because I know for me, when I'm having the worst day ever, I just tell my mom, hey mom, like, I'm gonna stop by. She gets my favorite bun from my favorite panaderia, her homemade hot chocolate, and I'm recharged, ready to go. And
for those who don't know what bun is, it's basically sweet bread.
Yes.
And panaderia means bakery.
Yes. He's like, not everyone has the luxury of doing that. So what do you, I was saying, ¿qué haces cuando quieres tirar la toalla?
Yeah.
So he wanted to provide this community, and I would just see people come in all the time, talk about the American dream with my dad or with each other, and that started filling up the restaurant. And now, like, to see where it's at now, and I don't know if you've seen, but even me throwing a Taylor event.
That was one of my questions, honestly.
I threw a Taylor Swift event, and
You're a Swiftie.
Yeah, I'm the hugest Swiftie.
You're a Swiftie. I wanted to definitely talk about that. Like, how did your passion for Taylor Swift begin?
Oh, okay. So, I went to predominantly white people's school, and every little girl talked about Taylor. And I remember there was this girl named Celeste, and I don't know how, but yet again, she was still coming up at the time. Her parents contacted her team, and she sent a video. It was like, happy birthday, Celeste. She had a full-on Taylor Swift party. And I remember, full-on Swiftie. Me and my sisters, we know every song, everything about that woman. And then we go to, predominantly Hispanic people's school, and everyone's listening.
And nobody likes Taylor Swift.
Yeah, and I remember, I had merch, I had Taylor merch that I wore on free dress day. And they're like, ew, you like Taylor? And I was like, yeah.
You were shamed for liking Taylor Swift.
Yeah, and I was all like, yeah, like, why? Like, is this wrong? And like now the entire world likes her, and you know, I still have people from middle school, and I'm like, you bullied me for liking Taylor Swift, you fake Swiftie. But then I was all like, I don't know.
You liked it before it was cool.
Yeah, I did.
Before even Swiftie was a term.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I hopped on TikTok and I was like, hey, what if we have Taylor and tacos? And like, just joking. She was dropping Speak Now, like re-releasing it. The album is purple.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're going to have purple tortillas. I didn't even know if that was a thing, but we made it happen. Like,
I love that you actually, when I saw your tacos, your Taylor Swift inspired tacos, I was like, oh my God, this is so like original. I've never seen this. And the fact that, again, back to the thing, love. You love Taylor Swift, you love your restaurant, and you kind of merge those two things together. So how has the community responded to that?
So I posted that, and I thought I was going to get hate for that because I was like, she's not Latina. But then I was like, you know what, just come on down, because me and my white friends always have Swiftie parties. I mean, you know, our friend Celeste, she got a video from Taylor. So this is something we've always done, but I was like, how could it happen at the restaurant at the time? Like, we were a month into opening. I was like, how do I bring people in? I was like, at this point, like, I don't care. I'm gonna just throw it. If 2 people show up, cool. If none, I don't care. Like, I'll blast Taylor by myself and everyone will watch. But no, I stepped out of church and the video had so many views, and the comments were like, oh my gosh, like, we'll camp out. I mean, we do it for concerts anyway. And I was all like, what the heck? They sold me out of everything.
Oh, really?
Everything. And it's a lot of, you know, Latinos. Like, I feel like there's a niche of a lot of Latinos who want to strive for more, who have this American dream as well. And we're very underrepresented. And we were just talking about this last night because we had an Era's release party. We're all like, you know, even in the sections that we're in, like, we were probably like 2 out of 10 Latinos, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, the Latino Swiftie community is growing, but it's still very slim. So to bring a lot of us together that share similar interests, and we could talk about our struggles, you know, professional struggles or like daily struggles, like it's insane. So thank you, Taylor, for that. But yeah, it's been crazy to see how, you know, now that we've grown, they also attach our names to that. And every time I noticed this, like, I mean, sometimes like my dad's like, you know, just post this, and we just post it because the algorithm. But when it's something that we love, like, we see that it goes further. Yeah. And that's because we're literally pouring like our heart and soul into that. And I think people see that, people relate to that. So, you know, my biggest piece of advice is always do everything with love. Yeah. And, you know, even when you don't see a result, it just takes one person. Like one person. And I've never shared this story either, pero my dad, I don't know if you saw, we did a golden Chile relleno. So he did a Chile relleno covered in gold. And I was like, I already know what the community's gonna say. Like, they're gonna say that we're gentrifying the food or this and that. This is when Mexico won the Copa.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. And my dad's all like, you know, like, they're gonna reach out to us if you post this. And like, I battled him on that. And
I'm assuming your dad likes sports.
He
loves soccer.
Loves soccer. So then, you know, she works in, I forgot what they call it, but she used to work on the cabinet with Peña Nieto.
Okay, the old president?
Yeah. So she's very connected, and she just knows the most random people, right? And my dad posts that this tia's like 60 years old, about to be 70. Like, what is she doing on social media? I don't know. She sees that and she calls him like 3 times. Marcos, I want to connect you with Orbelin Pineda, one of the players. Right. And I kid you not, that's the video till this day has the least amount of views, the most amount of hate comments, but all it takes is one person. It could always come from where you least expect it.
So basically you grabbed the chili and you wrapped it in gold foil.
Yeah, he like melted it and
to look like the gold cup from soccer.
Yeah, and people were not happy, and I was just like, I knew it. You should have listened to me.
Like-
but then when that happened, he's like, I knew it. You should have listened to me. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah. To me, gentrifying, it's a very hot topic,
Yeah.
especially for someone's like people like us. But
Yeah.
to me, it's like there's fusions of cultures. I think the essence of a neighborhood never goes away as long as the people, continue to like bring that culture. I think you're bringing the culture in a very like mainstream way. I think sometimes people feel like they can't do that. It has to be original. It has to be traditional. It has to remain the same. And I think to me that's always kind of like a thing that holds back people, because sometimes
Yeah.
I get that talk from my own family that tells me like, you need to behave, think this way. And I'm like, Dad, I get it, but at the same time, like, look at me, I'm not doing, like, I must be doing something right
Yeah.
if I don't depend a single penny from you. Like,
Exactly.
I was so having that to me is like that ability to kind of bring mainstream media, American media, I mean, because it
Yeah.
is American, even if it's like soccer, like to me, like bringing those two things together is like very important, that I think like you
Yes.
kind of like do very organically.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, like even with, the Eras Tour menu, because I would see girls like getting ready and going out to eat, and they'd be like, oh, up here at Chick-fil-A, pre-Eras Tour. And I was all like, wait, but there's so many Latinas here in LA who love Taylor. I was like, why don't we just call it Taylor and Tacos? And I literally sat there for like 48 hours. I was like, okay, we need to like make this organic. We need to get the color organic. And I didn't do it because like I wanted media or anything. I did it genuinely because I love Taylor. I love tacos. I love our culture. And we got covered by like the LA Times and like huge media sources.
Yeah.
And I was like, and that's because we're combining, our cultura. We're combining mainstream, what
With
we
home,
love.
you're
Yeah.
combining it with home,
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah. How do you when you say like American, do you feel like very happy to be American?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I feel the same way. To me,
Yeah.
I like, and this is where I think whether it's white, black, Asian, like to me, that's something that since I was little, seeing like books about like, even like the whole reading history itself about kind of like the Statue of Liberty, like that was the first thing that people saw, like the immigrants, like the Italians, the Germans, the Irish, the like all the European, like basically immigrants that saw that. To me, I was like, that's so cool. Like I felt like that was part of the story, because initially, as much as people sometimes, another hot button issue is like Native Americans. They are the true natives. Like our
Yes.
features have been around here, yet we didn't get any, like we didn't have any media, we didn't have any like ability to tell our stories or even connect with people. It was always like it's us against them. Like, and to me, like that's one thing that I hope to change. Like there's so much like culture, like similarities,
Yes.
and especially in LA. Like it's one of those, like the history itself, like, the fact that it's Los Angeles in Spanish, to me is like that's the stories that I kind of wanted to bring here.
Yes.
People like you, Angelenos, and even if they're not from here, there's always another hot button issue where it's like, oh, there's a bunch of out of towners here that make the city like very, like they don't even understand LA, but yet they're claiming to be from LA. And then to me, it's like, I still like those people, because it's like you came to our home, and the fact that you're bringing your side to it. Like there's friends that I have from Ohio, and to me, it's just kind of like they're ultimately here for the same thing. Like they want to get ahead in their life. Like in life, they didn't find it back in their own like neighborhood, so they came here. And to me, it's like, welcome. The more the merrier. I feel like even though we're like in a very dense city, I feel like there's still room for so many people
Yes.
here, right? Do you feel that way?
Yeah, for sure. Especially like being in, the heart of the fashion district. Like you see so much diversity, and I feel like that's something that the pandemic brought as well.
Yeah.
Like, yes, like it came with, a lot of loss, but I also feel like a lot of our stories were spotlighted. I feel like, you were talking about having friends from like Ohio. Like I have friends from like Pennsylvania, from like Florida that came over here, and just having them like bring their culture in. Like I just feel like you could walk down a block and you get a taste of like every culture. Like, I don't know, to me it's beautiful.
It's the hospitality I think that we grew up with.
Yes.
I think even Thanksgiving itself, some people don't like Thanksgiving. Now it's become like, hey, Thanksgiving sucks because they killed a lot of Native Americans after. But to me, it's like, no, it kind of shows you how the Native Americans even welcome, like, hey, they're gonna die if we don't help them out.
Exactly.
You know, and I think that's one thing that our culture is very famously known for, that hospitality, that we're able to make people welcomed. And to me, that's kind of the what LA kind of has and will always hopefully can be. I feel like there's a lot of like-minded people out there. Every time I look out the window, I'm like I told you earlier, I'm like, I know there's good people out there. You know, like sometimes our city is with like the way it's like the homeless situations has been going on, like to me it's like we're not dying out here. Like there's good people that try, like, you know, are putting something into the economy, that are doing like their passions and like helping out. Like it's something that's out of our control that you and I cannot fix. But ultimately it is one of those things that I think if everybody were to be more productive rather than just kind of pointing fingers of who's at fault, I think we could come to like quicker solutions. And being in such a business where it's just like you said, the restaurant business, it's difficult. What are some of the most difficult things? Like obviously you talked about like COVID, but like daily things that are like you find like frustrating or like a little bit more difficult to do.
So I feel like, you know, now leading the family business, it's very male dominated, and not only that, there's still lack of diversity. However, I talk to my mom about this so much, but I remember being a child and it would be me, my mom, and my sister walking, and my dad would be at the restaurant, and we'd literally be the only females there. And now, like, you see at least 3 out of 10, but it's still it's harder. I've had so many, you know, now that we're growing, we're scouting locations. So many times where like I walk into like a meeting and I'm overly prepared. I have everything, and I'm like, we have the charm on, we have everything, and then we have like my dad walk in. They don't know that we're connected, and he walks in like unprepared at all, and he'll get the deal. Or like, you know, now that we have a board, I tried to like prove a point, and I was like, no, like it's because, you know, it's easier for you guys, like you guys are white, you know. And they're like, okay. So there was this situation where like, we're gonna do an experiment. So I walked into this potential location that we were scouting, and I walked in, they were like, you know, $27,000 rent, and I was like, okay. My dad walks in, 21. They walk in, they sliced it unprepared. They're just like, oh, we just want to do this and that. And I was like, this is like minimal in comparison to like what we go through. I was like, then there's grants, then there's, you know, connections. And I was like, we're very, in our community, there's a lot of people that are very scarcity like mindseted, who are very gatekeepy. And when someone like makes it at the door, it's very rare when you find a Latino that is like, hey, come on.
Like genuinely wants to help like, and hey, see you shine.
Hey, come with me.
Yeah.
Like I got you.
That's difficult in all cultures.
Yes.
Like I feel like there's some people who, even though yes, they may have some money, they still have that famine mentality. It's just like, you're not allowed, or it's just like, I won't let you in.
Yes.
Or make it difficult, like you said. So you're saying that for being like Latina, female, they offered you the same location for $27,000, but then your dad went in separately and got $21,000.
21.
And then you said another third. And I'm assuming, are these your friends or like
no,
a board?
It's a board member, and they're helping as well. And
is he white or she?
Yeah, white.
Oh,
yeah.
and so she went in, or he?
Yeah, she went in.
She went in.
Sliced in half, and she said, I went in clueless. I just
for how much money though?
For like, sliced in half.
11, so like 11,000.
11,000.
So from 27 to 21.
Yeah.
To 11.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if it's because like I look young. I don't know.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah. So,
I feel sometimes even us like.
Yeah.
Sometimes like I have like young features. I'm 31 years old, and sometimes like I get treated like you're not old enough. And I'm like, dude, like I've been doing this for 10 years. Like I've been doing one thing for 10 years. And like you who's just happened to get the job because you know the owner.
Yeah.
Like, and now you're trying to like take a dump on me, like on my person, like just on my appearance alone. Like it sucks. It's hard.
And then also like, so my dad has a lot of friends in the restaurant industry, like, you know, different nationalities. And what I noticed in the Korean culture is, because he's really, really close to this one guy, and he founded Tadai restaurants. Like they're not around anymore, but when they opened that, they had a business warming party when everyone came in and like, hey, like I got you on the hood, I got you on the grill, like this and that. And they just like keep it together. And I'm like, all of these communities are coming together. I was like, that's why, you know, with the Latinos that I've met along the way, and like I feel like I've built my circle where, you know, everyone is so confident enough that if the opportunity doesn't go to you, you can still be happy that it went to someone else in your circle.
Yeah, absolutely. Like being happy for your friends, right? Yeah, because I sometimes struggle with friends myself. Like I think it's one of those things where I've always, since I felt like a little rebel, like the black sheep, like, but in that sense, I also found a lot of like, kind of like within that silence, was able to find who I was. Yeah. Like I like this, and ultimately kind of tapped into that. And really it's what has led me to this position now, where I'll get to interview other people that are just as happy, like who are just know who they are. Like the fact that you started this podcast just talking on your own, like I was like, wow, you really know yourself. And I like that. A lot of people sometimes take that as like, oh, they're just being cocky. Have you ever had that, like where people like, instead of like being happy for you, they're like, okay, it's my turn to talk. It's weird, right? I've experienced that too. It was like, I'm very happy for people. I'm very happy for like their stories. To me, that's, everybody has a story. And to me, like the fact that you know your story so well, it made me very happy. I was like,
oh, thank you.
I'm glad that you came by and to experience, like kind of talk more about your business. And Cuernavaca, it's pronounced Cuernavaca in Spanish, right? Yeah. But Cuernavaca Grill. What are the locations?
Yeah,
if you want to share with people.
Yeah, so we have one in downtown LA, we have another one in Bell, and we have 2 more coming soon.
Oh yeah? Where are the locations?
Lakewood and Long Beach.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you.
What are the future plans for Cuernavaca? I'm assuming you already gave that, right? That was one of my questions too.
So we're gonna keep expanding. My dad is coming back into the kitchen like full time, and we've I don't know if we've shared this online, but we've been shipping out Chile's Rellenos. The Food Network connected us with so many people, and we've been shipping them out frozen. So we're hoping to get in retail soon. So, you know, follow along to see that process.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congrats. Congrats. You. I didn't know any of this going in.
So much.
But see, sometimes to me, the art of like just speaking with people, there's so much depth. And I'm just not, like, is there anything else you want to share? Because I think I feel like I learned a lot from you, like as a person and as, one thing I wanted to ask. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm 26.
I'm not supposed to.
I'm 26 years old.
26 years old? Awesome. How do you balance relationships and business?
Okay.
Like, what's been your experience?
Like,
in general, like if you don't want to dive too deep,
like friendships or anything.
Friendships and also like boyfriend girlfriend.
Okay, so I don't really date. The last time I dated, it went very like south.
Yeah.
So I've always been so like stern with like, okay, it's my career first, this and that. I've had a few really good relationships, but the timing just, it wasn't aligning. Yeah. And then the last one, and this is a very like first experience that I had, but he didn't like that. Well, I mean, this was like in my peak era, like Times Square happened, like all of that. It kind of like overshadowed.
Oh.
Yeah. And he was just all like,
that's not okay, because I'm a macho man. Yeah. I'm supposed to be the head of the household.
When we broke up, he was all sucks. Like, Nayomie, he's all like, we can't date because I'm an alpha, you're an alpha. And I was all like, First of all, like an alpha doesn't say that.
I agree. 100%
Like, an
agree.
alpha does not say that, but whatever, like go off. And then I heard from him again when I had my grand opening.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You're so bold for opening in the midst of a recession." And I was like, "Hey, that's when the best businesses are born,
Yeah.
So so that's been my experience. That whole thing, like, it really did teach me that the person, like, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a relationship, like, if they really care for you, they'll be adaptable for you. And you don't have to compromise who you are. You don't have to, like, dim down your shine. Like, they'll
Your
just...
personality.
Yeah. Or like Taylor Swift's, like, they'll just let you be Jewel. Like, yeah. So that's, my take on it. A lot of my friends are... they're like out in the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So we always set a date, and we just a week where everyone just like catches up, like, hey, this is what we're doing. One of them works for like the ACLU, so everyone's doing like their own thing. Everyone's like kicking butt. So we just try to find balance. We try to find like acceptance, like, of who you are. Okay, they're having a fussy day. Okay, like, it's the tax quarter season is due. Like, everyone's just understanding. So I've just always been comprehensive, and thankfully, like, it's been reciprocated very well. And all the friendships that I've had, they've lasted for over a decade. So I was like, so I'm doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think supportive environments.
Yes.
There's one thing that I think leads a lot to failure in relationships is just the constant comparison and also like competing against your partner. To me, I see that a lot. I'm like, oh my God, what are you guys doing? Like,
exactly.
Like, you guys are supposed to help each other out. Like, you guys are a team. But but on behalf of males, sorry you had to go through that. That sucks. I would never say that because I have 4 sisters. Like, to me, the way I was raised, I'm like, my sisters are like, dale, chingona, dale, eres una chingona, eres una tigre, eres vikinga, like all these like names, all these funny like things.
And the funny thing is, like, he was close to his sister. I was like, okay. But no, it was definitely a learning lesson, because like now I'm able to like spot that right away. Yeah. Because like everything prior to that, it was good. It was like, hey, we just didn't work out because of time, because of like this and that. And then that one, I feel like it taught me a lot, because now that we're expanding, like, this person had so many like features that I'm just like, dang, like, I could even spot that when I'm closing a business deal. Yeah. Like, I'm just like, oh, this is deja vu, never mind, bye. Yeah.
It's that intuition you build from those hard, because ultimately it sucks that you go through that, because there is some emotional connection there that ultimately ended, and sometimes experiencing those things over again. Sometimes I feel like people, when they go through that pain, sometimes like they see it as a bad thing. Whereas you're kind of using that as an intuition, like, wait, I felt this before. Yeah. I don't like this. And that like ultimately builds you like to be stronger, like in the end. But I think if people don't learn from their lessons, from those lessons, they'll always be traumatized by that. And I'm glad you're using it in such a good way, like in your business, because sometimes that could be crushing.
Yeah, or like even when he was like, bold enough for you to open in the midst of a recession, I kid you not, like, I don't know, there was like this rage in me.
That feels a little mean-spirited. Yeah. Like, why would you like throw shade on someone's, like,
Yeah, there was this like rage, and I kid you not, usually when you get health permits or like everything permitted in a restaurant, you have to play the waiting game sometimes. It could take up to 6 months. I don't know how I did it, but after he made that comment, I had everything approved in less than 24 hours. Wow. Like, I just started knocking on doors. I was like, look, y'all, like, this plaza's dead. Like, I will throw events. I will this, and that. And I didn't really expect anything of it. But that same day, like, we had everything green lighted. And I was, thank you. Yeah, so,
I feel like that's God, like, like, here you go. Don't let the haterade like bring you down.
Yeah, well, like, karma is my boyfriend.
You mentioned God. How much has God played in your influence in your business life?
huge role.
Yeah.
I was always like the shy kid.
Yeah.
So it takes a while for you to like crack me. And I was always like the shy kid. Like literally when popcorn reading would come, like my hands were sweating. And I just never really wanted to speak. I was always so smart and like, yes, teacher's pet, but that was like when I got used to the teacher, when I got used to the class. However,
they build that trust.
Yeah. However, if they like put me on like the spotlight, oh no, like I am gonna flake, you know? Yeah. So I remember there was this math teacher that was like, can you, like he got me so off guard. I was having a bad day. He's like, can you just go do the problem? I was like, why? And he's like, Nayomie, like, we know that you know the answer. But it was just the fact that he like spotlighted me. So I trusted God with everything. I was always behind the scenes. Like I always thought my sister's the bigger personality. Like she's more charismatic. And like I thought, okay, like she's gonna be the face and I'm gonna tell her what to do and I'm gonna do the behind the scenes.
Nice.
But to now be thrown into it, I was like, okay, God, I will not be able to make it out alive if you aren't by my side.
Yeah.
So I did that, you know, trusting God. And I mean, the doors that have opened have been insane. And I'm just like, it's godly because I did this with zero connections at the time. You know, I didn't do it with like the intent of like, hey, like I want to be on Times Square, like I want to be on the Food Network. I did it to survive. So now to see God turn a very pivotal time in life to what is becoming like my empire.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely, I see the hand of God everywhere and I'm just all like, oh my gosh, like I'm like, if you know, you know. But yeah, I'm very like spiritual and I literally get up at 5 a.m. and most of my ideas come through like prayer, like all of my creativity comes through like a very like intimate moment with God. And there's so many like correlations, so many stories that I could say, but like even the Chile Relleno, it was like 4 a.m. and I was praying and I was like, God, I was like, I just need that one video to go viral. I had covered everything on the menu but the Chile because it's a complicated process. It's a very tedious process.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, like it just came to me later that day. We film it and here we are today.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I'm glad because to see sometimes I feel like I always like to know like inspiration because you know there's to me and other people having friends of different faiths, of different sometimes even no faiths, but they're still trying. Like to me the fact that like there's something that sometimes carries people to do more. And I always like knowing like wow, that's awesome for you. And
even like, you know, my parents growing up, they really relied on the Christian church because they like to self-develop so much. And they're like, hey, like we're breaking these generational traumas, generational curses. We can't do it alone. So just seeing God be so vivid in their life, like it really allowed me to experience my own personal relationship with God. And you know, I've experienced him like everywhere now. So yeah, he's opened so many doors and I'm so grateful for that.
I'm so happy. This has been a very good podcast. Honestly, I'm so happy you came by. Is there anything else you want to share? No? Awesome. Thank you so much. I like if you guys are interested in going to go eat food, they have combos, they have breakfast, they have entrees, caldos, which is basically like soup, right?
Yes.
Mariscos, tortas. Mariscos is like basically seafood.
Yeah.
And check out their menu online. They have pretty cool photos and their social media is popping, right? Cuernavaca's Gril _ You should be able to find it, but I'll also put it in the notes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming by. I really do appreciate you. I think you're one of those great Angelenos with a great story. The fact that you even came out on what's it called, Jefa owners in Times Square. Your face was in Times Square, right? How was that like?
Oh my gosh, I didn't know what we were shooting for. Yeah, I didn't. And so it was funny because, I mean, we had this partnership with Pepsi. They had taken my dad and his recipe to the Taste of the NFL. They broadcasted it. They took him to the game. And he was, we were literally front row to Snoop Dogg's performance. And he's from Long Beach as well.
Oh.
So yeah, so I was like, I didn't really expect it, so I thought we were shooting promo for that. And then I get an email, oh, by the way, like we want to fly you out. So I thought we were just going to talk about the campaign.
Yeah.
But no, like I turned around and we were on the Jumbotron and I was just like, oh my gosh, I want to cry, but I can't because I just got like my makeup done. But it was a full circle moment that, you know, a year prior to that, I was about to file as a denture.
Look at you. Yeah. Keep going. Whatever you're doing, don't stop. Keep going.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll be in touch another time, but thank you so much for coming by. They're family owned and operated. Obviously, you have one address here for 429 East 11th Street, Los Angeles, and then you have another one for 6367 Atlantic Avenue in Bell, right? And then two more coming soon.
And two more coming soon.
Coming 2024?
Yes, early 2024.
Awesome. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for being here. I genuinely appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Follow and subscribe for more. Keep in touch with me on stories.fromla on Instagram and YouTube. Thank you.